This is the Galaxy Z Flip 4 and I've been using it for the past week. And this was my first time using an Android phone after moving from Android to iOS 3 years ago. And it came at a time when I'm testing iOS 17 on the iPhone 14 Pro, so it was quite the journey. Let me tell you more about it. So before we get into the software things, let me tell you more about the design and what the Flip is all about. The first time that I put it in my pocket and I pulled it out, the screen was completely covered with dust. So when you close up the phone, the two sides don't completely close on each other. There's still a very small gap between the two, and that small gap gathers all the dust in your pocket and get it on your screen. So every time you want to open it up, you need to wipe it, and the screen is not that rigid to wipe it every time you pull it out. It's soft. I really like the softness of the screen. It's really smooth, but it's very fragile. Currently, I have my iPhone without a screen protector, and the screen, although it is strong, but it's not as smooth as the Z Flip 4. The crease in between the two sides, it's not that visible to me. It wasn't that big of an issue. I didn't really mind it. In fact, I really liked scrolling my finger across the crease because it felt nice. I don't know. That's just me. The screen, on the other hand, is fantastic. Of course, it's a Samsung panel. For anyone that wants to debate that the iPhone screen is better than Samsung's panels are the best. And by the way, iPhone screens are made by Samsung. But I did notice a little bit of color fringing. I noticed that when I looked at the screen from different angles. Of course, it's a Flip. You have to look at it from different angles. So that was a little bit annoying. The phone itself is just too tall. Like if I wanted to get anything from the top, it's very difficult to do so. The only useful thing about such a tall screen is watching a movie. Movies tend to be in a very long, let's say, aspect ratios. So when I watched a movie on the Z Flip, it covered the whole screen, which was great. Of course, I put it against the iPhone 14 Pro, although it had a thinner form factor, but it definitely was a bigger screen just for the movies. The top side is a little bit heavier than the bottom side, so that also created a little bit of a hazard while holding the phone. I felt that I was gonna drop the phone so many times because it's too tall and the top section is heavier than the bottom section. Now, opening and closing the phone wasn't that easy. You can't open it with one hand. You'll have to use both your hands to open it up. The closing part was satisfying and the click was satisfying. They even put a very tiny plastic part so they don't damage the frame. So something to consider. Calling on the Z Flip 4 was really good. I had a flip phone back in the day and it was Samsung, believe it or not. And I used to just open it up. Hi, how are you? And then when I finished the call, close it up, it'll hang up on the person. It was great. If you're a 90s kid, you will love it. Now, when you close up the phone, you find a very small screen. It'll show you some very specific things, but what I liked most about it is filming with the rear camera, taking photos, taking selfies, filming a vlog with that very small form factor, and at the same time using the rear camera, which is the better camera. That was the only useful part of that outer display for me. Now, speaking of the cameras, here where it gets really annoying. I thought that after so many years I'll find better cameras, but unfortunately I found almost the same style. The over-sharpened photos and videos, and the slightly oversaturated also photos and videos. And for the skin tones, for God's sake, they're either brown or pink. There is no in between. It felt that as if they're not really improving in that area yet. They still have a lot to do and to work on. On the other hand, with iPhones, for example, for God's sake, their videos are so freaking good. The most important thing about a photo of a group of people is to get the proper skin tones, to feel that you're alive in the photo, not paled. So what Apple is doing with their skin tones on the iPhone is much better than Samsung. I also tried to take a video in low light, kind of. It was good-ish, but I really wouldn't recommend a Samsung phone, let's say, if you really want to focus on taking videos or photos. There are also a couple more things that made me appreciate what Apple is doing with their iPhones. First of all, their haptics. Oh boy, I don't know what Apple is doing because I think Samsung and all the other mobile industry are using the same type of haptics, but Apple is doing something else. It feels settled but real on Apple. It feels as if it's alive. But on the Samsung side, it felt like this buzzing, annoying thing in my hand. It didn't feel real. It felt like a machine vibrating. It didn't feel like a natural vibration, if you know what I mean. On the other hand, with speakers also, they're not as bad. Of course, they're really good actually. I was really surprised of how good they are, to the point where I thought, wait, are they better than Apple's? They turned out not to be so, of course. But here's a quick test for you to listen. Maybe the video didn't do them justice, but in my opinion, Apple's is better. But they really blew me away of how far they've come. I really liked how rich and full the sound was. But when I put it against the iPhone speakers, the iPhone was clearer. There is more separation. It was fuller. It had more clarity. So it was a slightly better experience on the iPhone than the Samsung. Now let's get into the software. Going back to Android after 3 years of iPhone, while testing iOS 17 on the iPhone 14 Pro was quite interesting. I found a lot of things that Samsung and Android took from Apple, which felt a little bit like, guys, you were better for so long. Why are you copying Apple and copying stupid things from Apple that really don't matter? Like the gallery, for example, the camera layout, and so many other little things here and there. Of course, integrating new features from other operating systems is great to improve and to move forward and to have a better operating system, but not copy the stupid things, for God's sake. Some of you might ask, did you miss the back button? Well, after using iOS for so long, I got used to the small back button at the top left corner, to the point where I used the flip and I changed the navigation bar at the bottom to the iPhone layout. Sometimes on iOS, I still miss the back button, but hey, it is what it is. But the thing that I really enjoyed the most is notifications on Android. For God's sake, Apple, what the hell are you doing with your notifications? Oh my God, I miss not having so many things in front of me, so many information, useless information from my notifications. Android, well done, well done. You're getting even better and better at notifications. That's one of the most important things in a phone and makes your life much easier. Apple CarPlay versus Android Auto, there is no comparison between the two. Apple CarPlay, I mean, is way better than Android Auto. Other little things here and there that Apple just do better. The Apple way, the Apple magic. While using iOS 17 and getting that standby clock beside my bed, I'm having even better experience with an iPhone, the same iPhone that I had, and getting the updates just like everyone else, not a year after or a few months after. Just the Apple things that Android really should keep up with. And that's been it for today's episode. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, give it a sub, and I'll be doing a lot more episodes very soon. I'm back on track. I'll be testing iOS more and more and getting more into Apple, which is not that great. I'm trying to keep a way out with Google stuff, okay? See ya.